Good evening, folks. Welcome to FMA Discussion. This is episode 405, and I just had to do it. I had to play that song by DJ Shadow because who we have on tonight? Ken, aka Shadow. So without further ado, we're going to be bringing him up. If you're watching, tell us where you're watching from. Smash that like button. If you have questions for Ken, please put them in the comment section. I did get a couple in through the test run, and we're going to ask them. And so I'm excited for this one, 52 blocks. I don't know much about it, but hopefully at the end of this episode, we all learn a little something about it. So without further ado, here's the man himself. Hey there, how are you? Good, you?
What's going on, brother? How you doing? Can't complain too much.
So, how things going? Uh, so I'm excited for this. The test run was great feedback on that. Folks were really, excited. We already got 9 people jumping in, watching. Comments are coming in already. So I think this is going to be a great episode. So I'm looking forward to it.
You and me both.
Yeah. So we're going to hear your story and this. So I guess before we get into the 52 blocks, was there any martial arts that you did prior to going into that?
The only thing prior to that, my mom fenced when she was young, and she used to teach me and my sister fencing when we were kids, but that was
about it. Okay. Fencing, man, that's wow. Okay. Get that straight line.
Yeah.
So what? Okay, so what got you? I know you mentioned Brooklyn, so I guess this is a multifaceted question. What age were you? What led you to 52 blocks? Everything.
All right. So when I was a kid, we had this game we played, slap boxing, right? And basically, when you slap box, it's a lot of movements with the hands and stuff like that. And then, unfortunately, because of the environment, Brooklyn had a lot of crime. We had a lot of guys going into prison and coming out of prison. And there was a tradition back then. The older guys would come home and they would teach the younger guys how to fight to make sure that they could defend the block and stuff like that. And I had a lot of uncles that was in and out of prison and cousins and stuff like that. So they would come home and they would teach me. One in particular was my uncle Sham, right? Donnie Martin Sham, God bless. He died about a year or two ago, and he was a phenomenal fighter. And we used to go in the backyard at my grandmother's house, and we would go through stuff. And then my cousin Omar also, and I'm talking about this is as early as me being 5 years old, slap boxing with my uncle and my cousin and stuff like that, and just picking it up like that.
Wow. And so was that kind of like what they were showing you when you were getting out? Was it in actuality the 52 blocks?
Yeah. All right. So 52, right? There's some people make a distinction. So technically speaking, there's Jailhouse Rock, right? 52 blocks is what guys on the street started calling it. 52 blocks rather is what guys on the street started calling it. But what they were technically showing me was Jailhouse, but 52 comes from Jailhouse, right? One brother in particular named Wise Marrow, the way that he describes it, he says the Jailhouse is a more aggressive form of 52. And I can agree with that because in prison, guys aren't necessarily concerned with flash as much as they are with function, right? The objective is to be more dangerous than the other guy, right? You don't want to give a dude an opportunity to, to get you, man. He might, whether it's stabbing you, cutting you, hitting you over the head with something, or just out fighting you. The more time it takes you to beat the dude, the more opportunities it is for him to take advantage of your mistake because you're almost always going to make a mistake, or there's always the opportunity. Mr. Murphy's law is real, right? So you draw the fight out, you make a mistake, you might slip up, might slip on the ground, whatever the case, and now this guy has an opportunity that wouldn't been there had you finished the fight quickly in the beginning.
Okay. Wow. So Jailhouse Rock in 52. So before we get into that, I guess who came up with either system and how far does it go back?
All right. Now, this is where it gets crazy. depending on who you speak to, right? Um, the answer to that question is going to vary. The way that the history was taught to me by Minister Ali, right? I consider him to be my formal instructor in 52 only because he was the first one to give me the how and the why behind the system and the history associated with the system, the way that it came, that he got it, right? Right. So goes back all the way to Africa, according to Minister Ali, right? There's certain parts of it, like when the slaves first came over, apparently they had a fighting system. I mean, remember, a lot of them were captured in war by other tribes, and those tribes sold them. They ended up over here. So they knew how to fight, right? And they had a thing called Close the Gate, which was basically like this, right? Today we call this movement Skull and Bones, right? Boom. But that comes from that Close the Gate. So movements like that are still found inside the system, right?
Okay.
So it can be traced back to that. But as far as it coming to the way it is now, there was a way that the guys fought in the state they called Stato. Well, before that, we go to the plantations, right? And they had the Mandingo fights. They would have fighters on one plantation, and the slave owner would take them to another plantation, and their fighters would fight this fighter, right? And, you know, as you fight and you win, you look at what you did, how good it worked, if you can make it work better, what you attempted to do that didn't work. And if that could be made to work, and if not, you get rid of that. Maybe the guy did something to you that worked and you liked it, you figure out how to adopt it. All of this transition, because once slavery ended, the black codes kicked in, Jim Crow, all of that, they started putting the black men in prison. So these guys was fighting on these plantations and now in the prison system, right? And they're still fighting, right? So now they're fighting, and the system that they've been making for themselves is morphing. As they learn more, it adapts, right? All right, cool. So now, so that's how we got Stato, right? It was called Stato because, you know, New York State prison system is the way. So Stato for the prison system, right? Stato morphed into Jailhouse Rock, but Jailhouse Rock had different forms. Jailhouse Rock was like a generic term, right? Okay. Different facilities had their own fighting systems. For example, you had the Comstock Shuffle, the Woodburn Shuffle, the Auburn Shuffle. There was a style called Four Corners, right? And all of these was considered Jailhouse Rock because the rock was really a movement like this that you did to throw off the opponent's timing, right? So now we fast forward to HDM. This is before there was a C-74 on Rikers Island, right? So we get to HDM. And they didn't have a building for adolescents, so the adolescents were there. So you had, according to Minister, there was him, a guy named China Church, Onions, Kareem, Karate Rob, and I can't remember everybody, but there was about 10 to 15 guys, right? Now, each one of these guys were proficient. Like one dude was good with the Comstock Shuffle. Another dude was good with the Woodburn Shuffle. So on and such. Minister was an Olympic level boxer, right? The dude's hands was phenomenal. Last time I saw him, Minister was like almost in his 70s, and he still had one of the fastest jabs that you wouldn't believe how fast his dude's hands were, right? So and they would come out every day. And according to him, he said they used to like wrap up their elbows, their hands with ripped up t-shirts and stuff like that, and they would go in the back and box. And they would basically see what worked and if they could make it work better. And they started forming a system, right? Because they would keep track of the different things that they were doing and how they flowed together and so on and so forth. And this became the Jailhouse Rock, and then the Jailhouse Rock became 52 blocks on the street.
It's fascinating, man. You know, when you were doing this, and I can't speak on Nigel's faction. I know they have an Indiana component, but under Lloyd's, what they call reform style, kind of the empty hand, if you will, Piper. It's kind of, there's this move in here, like, you know, you're kind of like, you know, it's so I see the parallel what you mentioned, like, you know, coming back from the African roots, and that when you made mention of like the earlier plantation days, did the one-eye wrestling come up and all that? Like, any was that part of it as well?
You said one-eye wrestling?
Yeah, it was pretty like it was like if you look at it, it was based off that movie. Now of course the name's gonna escape me now. Came out a few years ago, and it was regarding this form of fighting that they would use, on the slaves, and they referenced one eye because sometimes what the guys would do is they would literally, try to claw each other's eyes. And
Are you
then,
talking about Django?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, no. Well, nobody ever mentioned that to me as far
I
as
was
like,
just curious. I didn't know if there was a parallel or and all that. It was more curiosity. That's all.
yeah,
In there, but
yeah. Again, like one of the things that minister always emphasized to me. So you have to understand it, like especially like I'm from Brooklyn, right? And when I was growing up as a kid, on just about every third corner in Brooklyn there was a boxing gym, right? So a lot of the guys who were going into the prison system were good boxers, right? And a lot of the booty bandits were boxers, right? These guys could fight. So in order to beat the boxer, you had to be able to attack the boxer in the way that he was unfamiliar with protecting, right? And then you had to be able to attack him and defend in the way that he was unfamiliar with attacking, right? So we know that in boxing, your punches, the jab, the cross, the hook, the uppercut, and the overhead, right? Every boxer knows this. Every boxer learns the same punches. Every boxer learns the same footwork. How they interpret that differs from one boxer to another. That's why stylistically, Floyd Mayweather doesn't fight like Pernell Whitaker or Mike Tyson and so on and such.
Yeah.
But they all have an idea what to expect, right? So understanding that, these guys, when they were putting together the 52, they're like, all right, cool. Each of them had a knowledge of boxing as well as these other jailhouse styles that they had learned. So now how can I hit the boxer? Where can I hit him from that he won't expect, right? So again, remember, we're talking about the 60s, right? The 50s, late 50s, and the early 60s. A hammer fist wasn't a common thing, right? So if you block and come out with a back fist, or you block here and come out with a hammer fist, the box is not expecting that, right?
Yeah, right. It's right. It's not universal to what they've been training or seeing. Gotcha. Yeah.
Exactly, right? For the boxer, the exchange is you punch, I block, I punch back, or I might parry and punch back. I might parry and punch over your punch. This was the thing. But all of this, the punch coming around like this, a hook came around like that. And a hook usually was part of a predictable sequence, right? I throw a left, I throw a right, I throw a hook.
1, 2,
right?
3. Yeah.
I might throw a left and then hook off the backhand, right? Yeah. But it was predictable, right? You could pretty much know where it was going to come from. The back fist, it was unknown, right? The hammer fist was unknown, right? Then blocking punches so that the punch is guided into the elbow. Again, this was something boxers were familiar with, right? So this guy throws his jab and you do this and you basically attack his attack with your elbow. First, that hurts like hell, and you might have just.
Oh my God! You get your fist on your elbow, depending on how hard you're punching, man. That's a broken, and that's so similar to Pontook, this stuff that like we are, there. I mean, so obviously, yeah. You guys picked it's great stuff. But
right. Yeah. Side note with that, Karate Rob, right? He didn't study karate, right? He was actually a student of Grandmaster Moses Powell. If you're familiar with
Powell. Wow.
Yeah. And Grandmaster Moses Powell, as you know, was a student of Professor Visitation, who was a Filipino martial artist. So this is where I suspect that a lot of that comes from the similarity between Panantukan.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Right. So, but again, so now you have the boxer, he's attacking, and you're attacking his punches, right? Minister used to always say, 52 is not a defensive system, it's a counter-offensive system. You either attack the person directly or you're attacking his attack and then you're attacking him directly, right? You're never really defending, right? And so it's a lot of that, the hand movement and then the footwork. The footwork is intended to maximize space, to somebody who wasn't familiar with what they were looking at, it would look like the 52 practitioner was standing right in front of the person and not getting hit. But you're actually cutting angles and letting the punches either go past you or like I had made a video a while back and I was saying that because somebody had said that, you know, the timing that it would take in order to make somebody's hand hit your elbow and all this and that craziness. The reality is, though, if I know that you don't punch at my face and I move my face offline and put my elbow where my face was, you were already going that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody's a headhunter. They're going to go for your face. Yeah.
Right. You see what I'm saying? So now I just move my face and put my elbow there. That's where your fist was going anyway. I just put something else in replace of my face. So it's not about me timing your punch. It's just about me. If I can slip my head out the way of the punch, I can slip my head out the way and put my elbow in this place.
At the same time. Yeah.
Right?
I think it's, wow. This is fascinating. Just this history you're giving me, like, you know, there, how it formed. So was it basically, hey, guys, you're going to run. So was this like, hey, you're going to be going to prison. There's, you know, there's these booty bandits, some are boxers. Here's how you're going to counter their boxing. Is that kind of like, you know?
Not for nothing, kind of. Like, again, you know, it was a sad state of affairs, but the reality of the situation is that in Brooklyn at that time, it was pretty, you know, everybody was being trained to be a criminal, right? If you was running the streets, you was outside, you was being trained to be a criminal, right? So, and if you were being trained, then you were being fully trained. And this was a misconception a lot of people have where they think that criminals are untrained. This is one of the things that Nigel February says that I love, right? When he's like, the only martial artists who are always putting their skill to the test are criminals, right? Because criminals are always using their skill set, right?
Good point. Yeah. Wow.
Hello? What's up? All right, just give me a minute. All right, the guy that's supposed to help me do the demos is here. So let me go let him in.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead. Do your thing. Sure. Let me just see if any questions are coming in. All right, what we got here? We got Norman. All right, hey, Norman. We got Eric O'Brien. We got Gabe, Alvin, Coach Danny. We got Jason. And we got Terry, GM Dan. We got Kurt and Carlos. And we got a question from Jason. Shadow, how do you feel about the spread of? Okay, yeah, I'll definitely get that in, Jason. Absolutely. Where could we reach out to Shadow? He's on Instagram and right here on Facebook, Messenger. Both. So just wait for him to get back. The guy he's having that he's letting in, matter of fact, they're gonna be doing demos.
And so that was part of it, like what you said. It was anticipated that you would probably end up in prison. So if you was in prison, because so I like to think of New York in a way as like feudal Japan, right? And each borough is like its own fiefdom.
Oh, okay.
When you went to prison, there was always these borough wars, right? So all the older dudes wanted to make sure you was able to represent the borough properly, right? So they taught you to fight. They taught you, you know, how to use a razor, how to use a knife, and all this stuff here, so that when you went in, you'd be able to represent appropriately, because that was like a thing. You didn't want to go home and people heard that you was in jail and couldn't properly represent the block.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that was a real thing.
So so I know you were saying that 52 blocks kind of came out of I'm sorry, what was it? The 52 blocks came out of
the prison system.
Right, but I mean, what was the system, I guess, that was kind of before?
Oh, you mean Stato? Oh, jailhouse?
Yeah. So is that correct, that 52 kind of formed out of that?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So what can you tell as far as, like, you know, when you got older, you were getting it, like, was it as far as the methodology, was it like, I know you're getting off angles, you're putting this up, your covers, counter offensive and all that. So was it? I mean, were you guys drilling kind of a lot, shadow play, kind of slap boxing with it?
Slap boxing,
Yeah.
and so there was always a lot of slap boxing, right? And then fighting the older guys on the block, and we would go to other people's blocks to fight. That, like, Brooklyn was a crazy borough, man. So it was a thing where if we heard somebody was a good fighter on another block,
okay,
you would go to that person's block to see just how good they were at fighting. And so you was always putting what you did to the test, right? And I mean, some of those fights would last for hours, man. You'd be fighting in the middle of the street. Car comes, like somebody rung the bell. I go to sit on this car over here. He sit on the car on that side of the street. We wait for traffic to pass. Then we go back in the middle of the street and keep on fighting.
Wow. Right? Wow. This man. So when did you, as far as your teacher's concerned, or the one who gave you the most, what age were you when you and him met?
I met Minister. I was like maybe 20.
20? Okay. So you've been flat boxing up to then, and then you met him. And did he kind of give you what I guess you can call a system per se?
He pretty much refined what I had, right? So again, like I said, my cousin, my uncles, they gave me my foundation. Minister took that foundation and rounded it out, right? Because neither one of them really cared much for showing me. They gave me the very basics of boxing. They didn't go into a lot of detail. We didn't do a lot of drills and stuff like that. When I got with Minister, he was very much very technical, right? He wanted to make sure my drill was right. Like he always said that there are 3 parts to any punch: step, hit, protect. Right? He told me, if I see you 100 years from now, if I ask you what's the 3 parts of a punch, you better tell me step, hit, protect. Right? So, and he would make me like throw jabs at the top of the bag, stepping around the bag, then straight rights at the top of the bag, stepping around the bag. So the whole thing with conditioning and all of that, he gave me all of that, right? And then showing me how to put all of that together with proper, with the 52 blocks, because his thing was like, if you can't box, you can't do nothing else. Yeah, right. Man. So
nice. We got a question in here. I got some questions, and I'm trying to just put them in there. When they fit. Okay, so back to the prison. So this is from Brian. What's the system used by the BGF in the prison? Black River family.
Oh, well, so that's a West Coast thing. We didn't really have that out here.
Oh, okay. So this is more East Coast, 52. Okay, all right.
Right.
Okay. West Coast. Okay. We also got a question from here from Tom. This is a pretty good one. So Tom's question is, the 52 blocks versus other empty hand systems. How does it compare to? I mean, do you blend, or how does it compare? I guess his question is other empty hand systems that you've been exposed to.
So if I understand the question correctly, right? And so, hold on a second.
No worries.
So
we're kid friendly here.
If you mean from a sparring perspective, how does it like?
Yeah, I guess he meant it kind of. I'm going to assume he means it just overall sparring training. But his question was like, tested. Basically, how does it work or test against other empty hand systems?
All right, so I've sparred. What's this kid's name, man? Of Tim Whitaker's son. Right, I can't. Oh, James Whitaker, right? He's a champion boxer, right? He's got belts, he's got gold medals. I've sparred him and didn't get killed, right?
Yeah, in one home.
Right. There's actually footage of the spar up, right? So 52 held up well against a kickboxer. I've sparred. I've managed to use to some degree of success, and by which I mean I didn't get choked out. 52. Grappling, not the 52 blocks in and of itself, but the principles, like the deception and stuff like that. I've managed to use it there. I just recently knife sparred. I was at this past weekend. I was at a GHCA event, and we did some knife sparring there. and 52 held up. So far, 52 hasn't fallen short. But let me say this, right? When I'm speaking to this now, I'm talking about 52 VTK, which is my brand of 52, right? And it's not just the regular 52 anymore. I consider VTK like the Krav Maga of the 52 community. I found systems that I felt worked well with 52. And again, if we go back a little bit, right?
Sure.
The purpose of 52 when it was created was to fight boxers, right? Boxing was the big dog on the yard. That was the big threat.
Okay.
Boxing is still an official system, but it is no longer the only big dog on the yard anymore. You got guys studying MMA. You got like people study martial arts more now than they did back in the 50s.
Yeah, but YouTube and everything, right? Yeah.
Exactly, right? So if the style, so there's a brother named Powerful, right? Who he was also a mentor of mine, and this guy was a monster with 52 blocks, right? And because he was so big and he was strong, but he was quick as hell. And he told me one time, he said that if we were still doing the same 52 that he was doing when he was young, that we were letting it become stagnant, right? And that eventually it would die. And when he said that, I took that to heart, right? Because the reality of the situation is people aren't still fighting the way they fought when Powerful was young, right? The fight game has changed. It's morphed. It's grown, right? So 52 had to adapt in order to stay relevant. Otherwise, it would have got pushed to the wayside, right? So I trained in so again, learning what I learned from my uncle and my cousin, right? I saw similarities between that and Wing Chun. So I got into Wing Chun, right? Boom. Then I saw similarities between 52, Wing Chun, and Kali. So I got into Kali, right? So every time I came across a system that I found had similarities to 52, but there were also significant enough differences that could enhance the system, I would want to learn that to see how I could adapt it and make it work all together, right? Because I needed the system to grow. The system has to be a living thing. It has to grow.
Living, growing, evolving. Yeah.
Right.
I dig it. Yeah. No, we got here's a comment, question, and this is from Norman. So he's asking, Shadow, have you ever heard of Dennis Newsom from Cali? The first time I heard about Jailhouse Rock was in the late 80s. He actually did some choreography for the first Lethal Weapon film.
Yeah, I heard about that. I heard about they had 52 in the first Lethal Weapon movie, right? And I heard the guy's name, but I never met him. I don't know him personally, and that was about as much as I heard from. For the most part, from the West Coast, the dude that seems to be the most prominent practitioner of 52 right now is a guy named Diallo Frazier.
Diablo Frazier. Okay. All right. We got a question here. Linking. Here we go. And then I'm gonna get the Mike's question. This is from Jason, and I got your other question too, Jason, when it comes up. So Jason's question is, how do you feel about people linking 52 to athletes who don't train it?
Yeah, I think they're reaching, man. Like everybody wants to have some to kind of prove the validity of their systems, and sometimes people overreach, and I think it does 52 an injustice, because when you start doing that, that's dishonest, right? It's just like and I'm not throwing shade, but the Gracies do that a lot too, right? They'll be like, oh, and this was a BJJ move, and it's not a BJJ move, or a person, or whatever the case, right? But people always look for situations to try to validate their systems, right?
We got an East Coast West thing going on here between Eric and Brian. Oh, this is funny. Brian, I heard the West Side is where booty banditry originated. Oh, Jesus. These guys are
I don't know. Not a booty bandit, so I never studied the origins.
Oh, yeah. We haven't studied this. Yeah, we're not talking about the science of that, you guys. Oh, my Lord, it's funny. His home phone. Okay, yep, you can miss him. Yeah, right, exactly. Those of you, folks, if you are... I'm just going to put this there, but I'll definitely repeat this at the end. If you want to get a hold of Ken, here's his Facebook page, and you can message in on Messenger, and you're on Instagram as well. So no worries, Brian. Better late than never. All right, we got. I want to just make sure I'm not missing any questions. Okay, here's from a question from Mike. What instructor in 52 would you like to train in the future?
What
So,
instructor? What 52 instructor would I like to train?
so Sir Mike, what instructor in 52 would you like to train in the future? Let me just see if he can add something to that. Let me see. Oh yeah, I mentioned your guy here. Yeah, Diablo Fraser, Ghetto Blocks, great DVD. Huh.
Yeah.
I have to check that out. Along with your stuff. All right. Diablo Ghetto Blocks. Let me just see if he said anything. Oh, to learn more from. Okay. So, Mike, what his question is, what instructor in 52 would you like to learn more from in the future?
Honestly, all right, you know what? If I could train with some other brothers, the brothers in the constellation, I like those brothers. Because the brother Big K, his 52 is official, right? Yeah. If you ever watch him, his 52 is official. So I wouldn't mind training with him and his partner, Big D. Those two right there, they got some official 52, and I would love to get down to the city and train with them sometime when I have time.
Yeah.
And as far as, I don't know, not necessarily learning from, but training with, yeah. I wouldn't mind training with ATL Burley too. He and I, we think alike.
Who's that now?
So I would like to compare notes with him.
I'm sorry, who?
ATL Burley.
Okay. I just want to make sure. All right, let me just back up. I'm just making sure here I'm not missing any. I didn't miss any questions. Okay. This is Jason's first question. Shadow, how do you feel about the spread of 52?
About the spread of. All right, so. So I appreciate the fact that 52 is finally getting its due, that it's coming out from, behind the shadows or whatever. However, right, I think that the spread of 52, you got a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon who really don't do 52. And so somewhere down the line, 52 is going to get a black eye as a result of that, right? Because the way people think, they won't say that person is a terrible fighter. They'll be like, oh, 52 doesn't work because whatever this guy did, right? Okay. So as far as that, but again, it's like that with most systems, right? Something is good, you get people, they come in, they might pick up something here or there, and then they're the expert and everybody else is the layman. And, so as far as that aspect of the spread of 52, I hate it, right? But as far as the brothers who are out there putting in the real work and doing the real stuff, I love it.
You're always going to have, right, the fakers, right? Or the ones who are just getting a name for themselves and are trying to. We got a question here from Ryan. Shadow, have you seen any 52 in MMA or boxing that you like?
Well, Daniel Marks, also from the Constellation, and he was trying. I can't remember exactly. It might have been Rashid Davis he was training, right? I know that he was teaching him 52 blocks to use in the cage. Oh, and Light Burley has a couple fighters that he trains for both MMA and for boxing, right? So those fighters there, yeah. Outside of that, I don't really know of a bunch of fighters who do 52 blocks.
Mike Raymond trained Zab Judah.
Right. I forgot about Zab.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and watch Zab Judah's fights now. I'm gonna have to go.
Yeah. Oh, it was the fight when he fought Mayweather, right? Okay. He started doing 52 blocks and it confused Mayweather and he caught him with a couple good combinations. Yeah.
Nice. All right, what we got here? So Jason saying Dominion MMA. All right. Okay.
I'm not sure what that is.
Maybe a school that's incorporating 52.
That's awesome. That's dope.
Okay, so what is like? So what do you? I know your teacher there. He stressed the jab, contact, and obviously cover and all that. Was there other things that he really stressed to you as far as the methodology of his interpretation of 52 blocks?
Footwork,
Footwork.
right?
Okay.
Footwork was a huge thing because again, all right. So tell you a story about Minister Ali, right? Um, Now, mind you, I had already studied other systems prior to meeting him, right? So he got into a situation with these three dudes, right? All three of these dudes were known to be good with a knife. And Minister never used a weapon. He just he had these black gloves he would put on, and that was his thing. And he told all three of these dudes, like, yo, I want to see y'all in the yard or whatever. And he destroyed these dudes, right? And it was his footwork. But when I saw it, I was like, yo, that looked like I was like, that looked like the triangle footwork from Kali right there that he's doing.
Yeah.
Right? But he didn't know what the hell I was talking about. Right? He's just like, yo, that's jailhouse, that's 52. That footwork, man, because the way that it allows you to, like, when we go into the demonstration, I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about, right?
Sure. Okay.
You can essentially stand in front of the person, right? Because all right, so think about this, right? If the punch is coming here, if all I need to move is this much, and the punch goes this way, right? So now, if I take that and I step, and the punch is here, and at the same time the punch is there, I'm like I make sure that the punch is parried. I push the hand out because now the punches come here. When I do this motion here, it forces the arm over like this. So now his ribs are exposed, the side of his head is exposed. When I hit him with that shot to the body, it's going to bend him. And right behind that, I know, see, and this is where the boxing comes in, right? See, this is why 52 practitioners were also awesome boxers.
Awesome
because
boxers, right.
you're not going to get away from boxing, right? Again, I might be biased here, but if you want to learn how to throw a punch, the best people to learn how to throw a punch from is boxers.
100%. The best empty hand system is Western boxing.
Yeah. So that's where all of this comes together, right? You do that parry, boom. That's called a wrap up, right? So you do that wrap up, and that hook comes right behind that. Boom, you hit the guy, right? Right behind that hook comes that uppercut. Then you might grab his head, hit him with the elbow. All kind of stuff is going on there, right? But the whole objective is to end the fight quickly. But my footwork allows me to move and maximize that space, and it looks like I'm standing right, but I'm not standing in front of the dude.
Man, well, right here, Mike says it. 52 is angles, angles, angles.
Yeah.
Jason is saying it's Burley's Gym. Burley's Gym. Maybe reference to other people that are using 52. Okay, we got a question from Ryan. Can you break 52 down to the absolute fundamentals to work in real life situation? Would you propose for the everyday man?
Aggression, right? Attack the attack or attack the attacker, right? Let me see. Distraction, deception. And again, trying to be first, man. Right? Get out the way. Let's go back to the Karate Kid Part 3, Mr. Miyagi, right? The best way to block a punch is not to be there when it's thrown. Get out the way. You feel me? Get out the way. So for real life, like, the way that I structure VTK, the first 3 blocks, right, are right there, right? Boom. We have the spear, skull and bones, and the bull, right? Learning to use range, right? Close the distance between you and the opponent, right? But all of those keep you safe, right? And then you can counter immediately off of any one of those, right? See, that's the thing. You don't want to get into a long, drawn-out exchange with a person. Yeah. Especially, I tell people, always assume the other guy has a weapon, right? So if I don't know if he has a weapon or not, I don't want to stand there to find out whether he has a weapon or not. I want to try to end it before he decides that he needs a weapon. So if I use the spear and I go straight in and he does, let's say he does the wild cowboy punch, right? That's the most common punch people throw to think they can fight. It's the wild, that what they call a hook, but the haymaker, right? And I step in and I use my spear. I disrupt his energy there, right? boom. And as soon as I do that, when this makes contact with his arm, this elbow comes out. So bang, boom, right? This elbow hits. His head snaps back, and then this hammer fist follows that, right? And now I'm turning my body to be in line with him, and I can go into my boxing, right? See, it's quick, it's dirty, it's efficient. Now, that would be regular 52, right? Boom. VTK, no, I'm not just going to go into the boxing. After that hammer fist hits, boom, this hand is going to latch. And again, see, this is one of the reasons I like Medusa, because the similarity.
Latch. Yeah.
Right, boom. This comes out, boom. This hand is going to come out and what they call a man slap and latch. And I'm going to come back with another man slap on this side. That headbutt is going to come. I'm going to kick, blow his knee out, right? I want to demolish him. I want to destroy him as quickly as possible, right?
Yeah, jeez. You know, here's the thing with the weapon, like, and I know because you incorporate their stuff in your personal system, and people, and then I want to get into the African influence and Piper and all that. But do you have within your system, like whenever you know whatever you're doing, whatever kind of counter-offensive move, the moment you see him reach, are you advocating your students monitoring their hands and all that? Did you make that?
I do, right? I tell them keep their hands up, but I also teach something I call the rule of three, right? So the first time, right? Once I understand that there's an issue between me and the person, I try to de-escalate, right? And I'm like, yo, bro, you know what? You're right. I was wrong, whatever, boom. That's his first opportunity to walk away, right? But at the same time, it's a deception on my part because when I'm talking like that, he thinks I don't want a problem. I'm afraid, right? Boom. And I'm now assessing the situation, looking at his hands, seeing if there are any friends, family, and sympathizers around who might want to help, right?
100%.
So now he's still being belligerent. The second time, bro, listen, I said you was right. How about you want a drink or something? I'll get you a drink, buy some drinks for you and your friends, whatever, boom. I get just a little bit closer, right? Because now I want to make sure I'm in range to him, right? Now, once I've assessed the situation, I know that I'm in range, that I can do some damage, right? I ask him again, bro, I already apologized. What you want to do, right? And I'm not asking the question because I care what his answer is. I'm asking the question because I want him to open his mouth, right? See, it's easy to break somebody's jaw when the mouth is open, right? So when I ask him the question, he goes to answer. I hit him, bang, right? I gave you 2 times to walk away, right? You didn't walk away, right? So the third one, the next time I ask you a question, yeah, I'm gonna not, I'm gonna make you rethink your life choices at that point right there.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Your fence, you're evaluating, you're looking at his body language, other stuff. Is he reaching for his pockets? That's music to my ears. That's a steady diet to my students, Yeah.
A lot of times when you see footage of fights and bars and stuff like that, the guy who's being the most aggressive, he's usually trying to amp himself up, right? So, and it takes him a little bit because he may be unsure as to what he wants to do. So he's standing there, he's blustering and making all of this noise. So the more he hypes himself up and the longer you stand there, the more time he has to get hyped before he throws the actual punch.
Yeah.
I want to cut that time in half, right? Boom. I spoke to you once, spoke to you twice, bang. That's it. We ain't got to talk no more, right? You wasn't walking before you get hyped, I'm going to hit you, right?
Talking's over.
Yeah, talking is done.
Right? No, I love all that stuff that you just went over. I'm a huge advocate of that. Like, obviously, of course, de-escalating as much as humanly possible,
Yeah.
Sometimes, though, depending on who you're dealing with. Yesterday we were talking, you mentioned, I thought it was fascinating what you showed. And then, of course, we're going to have you demo, but just that, some of the similarities you were seeing in Piper, with, what they, on the Nigel's, we call it Major Troll, Nigel calls it the tumbler. But it's actually, though, you were saying something about the deck, unstacking the deck, or if I'm
stacking
not
mistaken. Right, like this. Right. So, and again, it's a deception. Well, that's only part of it because I could smack the hand down. I could use just to parry a hand and hit over the top. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm in a fight and I'm stacking the deck, right, because I'm using it to transition, right, spit the razor in my hand. So now you don't know the razor's in my hand, and I hit you with the razor, right? Boom. See, my hand is moving past my mouth. A lot of the movements in 52, your hands are moving past your mouth, even with the shuffle deck, right? My hand, boom, and I spit the razor in my mouth right there, right? So when I spit the razor head, boom, I parry, bam, hit with the razor. The neck is always a good target, right? Boom. The eye is another good target, right? If I blind you, think about it. For you to hurt me, you have to be able to see me, you have to be able to breathe, you have to be able to move, right? And ultimately, you have to be able to keep your blood circulating inside your body and not coming out of it. So if I blind you, I just took one of the things you need to be able to hurt me, right? So now if I blind you, I hit you in your eye with the razor and then punch you in your throat. That's your breathing and your eyesight gone, right?
Yeah.
That fight is pretty much over for you, right?
Yeah, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It just, that whole thing, like people just say, like under Floyd, again, what Nigel calls the tumbler, but the whole thing is you're just doing this because you're knocking down their arms and you're just, whether it's a knife or a punch or whatever, you're clearing their center and just,
right.
So it was so fascinating what you showed yesterday. Hey, I'm gonna let you go into the demos. This has been awesome though.
All right. Is there anything in particular people would like to see, or just freestyle it?
Whatever you want to show, man. Yeah, show whatever you want. There's no time limit. I'm gonna lower myself so people will be able to see you.
All right, just let me move this over here and call my partner in.
Mike mentioning Triangle Trade.
All right.
Go play. Go get the ball.
All right. So, this is Shabil.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing?
Right. That's Dean Franco. So, all right. So we start with first a basic thing. I had mentioned about covering range, right? Covering distance, right? So the first thing we're gonna do is address those three blocks, right? We got the spear, we got the skull and bones, and we got the ball, right? So again, the most common punch is that wide hooking punch, right? So give me the wide hooking punch, boom. I come in here, right? This is my spear. I'm already in this house. I cut off his power, right? Because think about, for the punch to be dangerous, it has to cross outside this line and come back across this line. I'm stopping that. Boom, right? Right from here, he eats this elbow. Bam! I hit the hammer fist. This is my latch right here. Boom! And I'm always stepping in the direction of my strike. So I hit the hammer fist. Boom! I come back with this man slap here. Boom! This headbutt right here. And I can come up into the cool white guy. And that's an elbow strike, right? See? From there, you can't see my legs, but I can kick out his knee, step on his ankle, boom, right? So that's with the question where the guy was like using it, with making it work in real life. That would be a real situation. A guy trying to sucker punch when you getting that block on, right? Hold on, Aaliyah.
Go ahead, go put it down there. Go put it over there.
Right? So now getting a little bit closer, right? That's coming from out of this range right here. Right? Now I get a little bit closer. This is my skull and bones range, right? Boom. Same punch, right? He gives me that punch, boom. I put it up here, right? Again, I'm safe. He's gonna eat this hammer fist right here. Off of that, when I step, boom, this way, he's gonna eat this hammer fist on this side. That's gonna open that up. I can put it straight right into his jaw right here. Or if the situation warrants, right, I do that. He eats this hammer fist. I come here and I'm drawing my knife right here. And now his carotid is exposed. Bang. And I'm going right in his neck. Right? Uh-oh. Looks like something happened here.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Hold on. I got to plug the charger in.
Oh, all right.
Good job. That's okay. Careful. Put it back.
second. All right. We should be good, yeah. All right. So. Wait 1 second. All right. So, I got it. All right. Yeah. All right. I have to do this with Bob.
Oh, no worries.
All right. So, again, that was the Skull and Bones ring. Demoing that with a knife. Right? So, again, the block was here. The hammer strike came here. Boom. I step over to this side here. When I move here, I draw my knife. I'm going in here. Right? So, this motion hides the draw. Right? Boom. Now, the ball. I'm a little bit closer. Same punch. I step in. I'm getting into the arc of his power. He's going to eat this elbow here. This arm's going to hit on his bicep. Boom. I come with that hammer fist right here. The knees here. If the hammer fist is going to go, then I'm going to latch. Boom. And I'm going to kneel. Right again. There we go with that. I'm going to do a latch.
Yeah, huh?
Right? So that's the thing. Once I'm in his house, I own him.
Yeah.
Right? Once I'm in his house, I own him. He's going to have to kick me out the house. Right? And I'm not trying to give him an opportunity to think of ways to kick me out the house. I want to destroy everything in the house before he has an opportunity to do anything about it. Right? So now, as far as like what I was saying with the deception, right? So when you got your hands moving, I'm always covered, right? And that's another thing with 52. Your hands pretty much stay in this box right here.
Right.
Right? Again, it's coming out of the prison system. You don't want to leave your arms up here and somebody stab you in the rib cage, right? Boom. Skull and Bones is a committed motion, right? I see the punches already coming, boom, and I'm getting offline at the same time that I'm doing that. So I don't want to block the camera, but if we think this is a straight line between me and Bob, his straight punch is coming right here, right? That footwork I was talking about, it takes me here, right? So I'm always like this, right? Boom. I'm just moving offline. And every time I move offline, I'm putting one of my limbs in the way. So his punch is running into all this, right? Boom. And there was a point I was making though. The deceptive hand motions, right? And keeping your vitals covered. So when I'm moving, my vitals are always covered, right? I'm always covering my vitals, I don't want to give an opportunity because even if he didn't have a weapon, a hook to the body hurts. I don't want a hook to the body, right? So I want every time he does something, or I want to make it as likely as possible that whether he has a weapon or he's unarmed, whatever he hits is going to be something that could take a hit better than this. All the vital stuff is in here, right? If he stabbed me on the arm, all right, cool. I don't want to get stabbed in the arm, but I'd rather get stabbed in the arm than stabbed in the lung, right? I'd rather get stabbed in the arm than stabbed in my neck. So my hands are constantly moving, and then with my hands moving, boom, see, the punch comes out of nowhere, right? Boom. So the dude trying to track the hand, like 52 is deep, man, because the eyes attracted to motion. If the hands are always moving, the eyes trying to follow him, and just like with Piper, somewhere you lose track of the hand, right? So now you become, I tell my students, you have to be like a magician, right? Fight a series of distractions. You want to keep the opponent distracted from what your true intention is, right? So if Bob is my opponent and I move here, right? So I put this up here and I'm, boom, and see, the punch is there, right? The punch gets there while he's still trying to figure out what all of this was, right? If I have a weapon, it's the weapon going in. You dig? So, and again, that's another reason for movements like stack the deck, shuffle the deck, The windmill. Well, this is not the windmill. I'm sorry. This is the Comstock, right? But see, I do the Comstock, boom. And when I do lock, I'm drawing my knife. I'm here, boom, come across with my knife, right? See, everything serves a purpose. Real 52 has no wasted movements. There's no wasted movement in 52. Real 52. This is one of the reasons they say that the difference between Jailhouse and 52. Jailhouse is about just to be blunt. Jailhouse is about killing the other guy first, right? That's Jailhouse. 52 out in the street, guys wanted to be flashy. That's when you got a little bit of the extra stuff going on. But Jailhouse 52 was about killing the other guy first, right? So you always was creating opportunities to be able to do that, right? All right, Shabilla's back.
I did some cartoons.
All right. So another example, right? And again, this is show similarities. This is more like with somebody asked about Sinawali yesterday, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was Phil. Correct. Yeah.
So this movement in 52 is called the Fan, but this is also a movement from Sinawali, right? So if now the Fan and the windmill are good when you got multiple opponents to deal with, right? Again, prison systems, combat, art. A lot of times you're going to be dealing with more than one person, right? Boom. So if he's punching, he's throwing punches, I'm here, right? Again, I'm still moving offline. It puts me on this angle right here, right? He throws the next punch, boom, I'm over here. I'm moving his hands away from me, right? Damn. Again, Brooklyn, right? Kids playing double dutch. It's the same thing, same motion, right? Play double dutch with the rope. It's the same motion. So you're here. So you might be here, boom. See? Do it again. Boom. I'm here. See what this hand is? Right? That's a punch. That's a stab. Right? Boom. That's the Fan. The windmill is going the opposite direction. Right? So I'm opening up this line for a tap. Right? So we here, boom, and he fed the punch, and I open this up, boom, right? Coming right in. Right? Now, I'm a firm believer. She's coming on there. Right? I'm a firm believer that you should treat your knife like a bullet. It should make an entry wound and an exit wound. So anytime you go in someplace, you rip it back out. Right? I know that in like the GHCA, shout out to those brothers, they call it a comma cut. Right? And this is not something exclusive to 52 VTK, but I like it. Right? You should always make an entry. You want to administer as much trauma as possible to the target area, right? Again, distraction, right? If I hit you in your gut and rip that knife out, your intestines start coming out, you're going to be more worried about that than worried about continuing fighting with me. I'm not being too graphic, right?
No, you're fine. No.
Cool. But so that's the thing. Everything is always a series of distraction. Your attacks are a series of distraction. Until the fight is over, you're always distracting the dude, right? That doesn't mean you're not hurting him, right? I step this way and get this punch off here. Going back to the Comstock, boom, I'm here with the Comstock. I do this. Comstock is very similar to the Philly shell, right? I do this, and instead of drawing a knife, I come back with this back fist, right? So I'm here, and I'm stepping. So when I do this, I'm stepping slightly this way because I want to get as much pressure as possible as I can to make his arm go as far this way as possible, right? Because it's going to throw him off balance. And then I'm going to step back in this direction. But at the same time, I'm closing distance. I'm taking like a little zigzag step. So I step and I step. See how I got closer? Right? Yeah. Boom. I step, bang, bang, right? And he eats this. And right behind that, boom, this punch comes, right? Or the VTK way. This comes out, boom, and it comes back with that slap as I get a little bit closer, and I pull his head into this elbow, right? Again, I want to finish the dude. I want to administer as much trauma as possible to the target area. Elbows are great for causing trauma, right? So, is there anything you would like to see?
I'm gonna hold up here. I'm just gonna bring It's been fantastic so far. I mean, I got a couple. Like I love we called it the dive entry. What you're calling the spear, we call the dive entry, where you're going over the arms. I thought that was yeah. So I'm a big fan of that. Off the haymakers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That whole thing like this. I love that too. We call it Ram's horn.
The bull.
Yeah, Ram's horn. Yeah, in Sea Lot. You're coming up like that. I love it. I think everything you've shown is. Matter of fact, I got interest now in like I'm gonna have to look you up and train with you. Coming with a piper, like I totally get where you're, all that distraction, confusion, moving, and before you know it, man, now this is out while you were like watching my hand play. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I'm just catching up here on comments. So is it? I know when as far as your methodology and what you included, I know you got kneeing and kicking all that, but is 52 blocks aside? I mean, is it pretty much no kicking, or is there some?
Again, the answer to that question is going to vary depending on who you're talking to.
Okay.
From the lineage I come from, there was none, right?
There was no kicking. Okay.
Let me say this. Minister hated martial arts. I don't know what happened with him and people that studied martial arts, but he despised martial artists. He hated it with a passion.
Oh my God,
right?
Sounds like Tom Sodas.
So no kicking, none of that stuff like that. That was nothing that he would do.
Okay. Yeah, no. Exception all the way. I guess Ryan's a fan. All right, which here when I spar, I always they're talking about the rock, the rocking back and forth, gives them freedom of movement.
So one other thing, right? So Diggy.
Actually, you know what? That'd be great. I'm gonna lower, can you show the rock? I'm gonna lower myself here.
Yeah, right. Boom. So I got that right.
Perfect.
So boom. See this motion here?
Yeah.
Boom. Right? That's the jailhouse rock right there, right? Because from here I can boom, boom. Right? See? Boom. But it starts here. Because I'm constantly moving. So think about it like this. If you think about your awareness, right? For lack of a better term, as a muscle, right? I want to tire that muscle out. I want you jumping, keep jumping until I desensitize you to my movement, right? So I'm doing this, and when I do this, your mind registers that I'm coming forward. So you go to do something, but I didn't come forward. So I'm doing this, and then I start moving here, right? And now I'm doing that, and my hands are doing all this, right? Boom. And you try to keep up with all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's what we call in Piper. We're trying to basically just overload your senses, sensory overload, and then while you're playing catch up, you're freaking, you're so far behind, you don't even know it. You know what I mean? But I love it. I mean, everything you're talking about, showing, I'm a fan.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, no. I wish I looked into this sooner, to be honest. I just didn't know anybody to talk to, bringing on the show. And then when your name came up throughout, I'm like, perfect. I found a 52 guy to bring on. So now, and thank you for the demos and your friend that came over. Those were awesome. Okay, so you're doing that then. Like, so what kind of got you like where you also made like a conscious effort to go like really into knife work, whether it was Libre, Piper, it's now Medusa, like what made you go deeper into that?
So I tell people all the time, right? It's foolish for people to believe that 52 coming out of the prison system wouldn't have a weapons element to it, right? Like we used razors. We didn't have knives like we have out here, but we had like what people call shanks, right? We had those. So my interest out here is just an extension of what I was already doing in there.
I got you. Okay.
Right? Boom. I always want to further my skill set. Again, like I said earlier, it's about growing, right? If it's not growing, it's atrophying, it's dying. So when I come across things that I feel can enhance, Piper, right, comes from the numbers gangs. Criminals always do good stuff, right? So, you know, as far as fighting.
Good way of putting it. Criminals do good stuff.
So, and then the way, you know, everything with the weapon movement and all of that, right? I'm like, yo, this is cool, right? This is I can incorporate this. Libre, similar thing, right? So when I look at what Scott Babb does, shout out to him, right? It's like what I was saying earlier about I give a person 3 opportunities, right? It's like the same thing. When you watch a lot of his stuff, he starts off with the weapon pretty much concealed, right? And then he goes into his thing. So if you take it that he already went to the first 2 stages, right? He tried to de-escalate first, he tried to de-escalate again, and now it's like, all right, this dude is not gonna let me de-escalate. Let me get him before he gets me. And he's doing it in a way, yo, it's not a whole bunch of moves. It's just boom, he might pluck the eye, right? That's gonna get the dude's attention up here. Remember, he's distracted now. He's more concerned about his eye and everything else. And when his arms come up here, boom, you hit him in the lungs, right? Boom, you get around behind him and stab him in the back. Whatever the case, right? Get the fight over with. And then the same thing with Medusa, right? Because I came across Medusa, that was the last of the week, right? And Medusa is like, yo, right? I tried to talk to you. See, what I like about Medusa, you could have a bad leg and do Medusa, right? You just need to the person, right? Boom. If you can get close enough to the person to grab them, right? Boom. And then now, this is the crossover, right? The tie that binds the 3 for me, right? So Medusa's shock, latch, and stab, right?
Yeah.
You find aspects of that across the spectrum, right? So if you think about what I said with how Scott, he starts from weapon concealed to attack, right? That initial attack is the shock, right? Boom. He'll move, like sometimes you'll see he'll do something like this. He's not necessarily grabbing, or maybe he is grabbing, right? Boom. But that would be the last, because the stab always follows that. And then the same with Piper, you have the knife is moving, boom, boom, boom. Yeah. And then there's a shot, boom, and then there's the stab.
Right.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? But that's how you win fights. See, all 3 of those systems are concerned with winning a fight.
It's tactics. Yeah, right. You're not getting caught up in drills and looking aesthetically pleasing, and you know what I mean? It's tactic based. And like you said, the criminals, they do it pretty well, right?
Right. And Mike Ryan and his son, look, they studied a lot of footage from prison knife fights and stuff like that. Boom. So again, we go back to what Nigel February says about criminals being the only martial artists who are constantly advancing the system, right? Yo, you want to learn how to deal with a criminal? Ask a criminal, right?
Yeah.
Boom. And that's another thing with 52 blocks that I tell people. 52 was a system designed by criminals to fight other criminals in an environment full of criminals, right?
So I mean, think about that, right? It was designed to go against criminals who had a boxing background or a fighting background. Yeah.
Right. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So there's a mindset. So that mindset bonds all 4 of those systems. Right? Then the whole thing about wanting to end the fight as quickly as possible. Another thing that all 4 systems have in common.
All 4 are bound by that too. Yeah.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? All of this, boom, it all comes into play, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a beautiful thing, man. And that's why those systems right there are the ones I felt complemented what I do best.
Yeah.
Because we share those similarities, right?
Mike Raymond just said it right here. The best people that do violence have been training in martial arts, right? Some way, shape, or form, right? Hey, we have a question. Okay. All right. So you're okay. I got a couple questions here from Ryan. I'm gonna get to them, Ryan. I got them both. So when you're teaching, I know you. So you made your system, but you put other stuff in there. So tell us about your teaching. When did you come up with your own system, and when have you started teaching?
All right. So the system came from, so unofficially, I had been doing the system for years. I just didn't know that I was doing it, right?
Okay.
So the first person to point it out to me was a friend of mine I met online. Did one of my first 52 videos. Guy in Canada named Ace Johnson saw the video. He liked the video, and he reached out to me, right? And so we became friends. We, talking back and forth. And he was like, "Yo, I've never seen it," because we eventually met in person,
Okay.
right? So he was like, "Yo, I've never seen anybody move the way you move. You need to do your own thing, man, right?" So I'm like, "All right, that's a thought." But I didn't know how to go about doing it. So when he asked me about this movie, if I'd ever seen this movie called it's with Kevin Hart and Will Ferrell.
Kevin
right?
Hart, Will Ferrell. Anybody?
Yeah.
Kevin Hart, Will
And
Ferrell.
Will Ferrell is a wealthy guy, and he got caught up in something, and he's supposed to be going to jail. And he assumes it because Kevin Hart is black. He's been to jail before, so he asks Kevin Hart to teach him how to survive in prison. Right?
Oh, Get Hard.
That's it. Get Hard. That's the movie.
Thanks,
that's
Mike.
the one. Right? Boom.
Thanks.
So, and so Kevin Hart starts showing him a bunch of nonsense because Kevin Hart has never been to prison a day in his life in the movie, right? So he asked me if I saw that movie, and I was like, nah. So he said, "Yo, he told me the premise of the movie, and he said, just imagine that that's what you had to do. If somebody you care about was going to go to jail, a maximum security facility, 90 days from now, what would you teach them so that they'd be able to survive?" And boom, the light went off, right? So I'm like, all right, cool. So then I just started formalizing everything, going from gross motor movement to more refined fine motor movements. Yeah. Right? That's why those 3 blocks are the first 3 blocks. That's why hammer fist strikes are the first strikes, right? Because anybody can do this. It doesn't take a lot of skill to do that motion right there, right? And anybody can do this. We've all prayed before, right? So anybody can. Actually, Alan calls that praying hands, right?
Yeah, he does actually. He does. Yeah.
Right? He calls it praying hands, right? Boom. We've all prayed before, so we can do this, right? Boom. This is not, people have done this, playing peekaboo as children, right? Yeah. Boom. This is a movement that we can do, right? And this, 9 times out of 10, somebody throws something at you and you didn't expect, oh shit, right? Your hands come up like this.
That's exactly what you're doing.
So now it's pretty much just taking movements that we would do naturally, giving them form, function, and purpose, right? Boom. So that's what I said. I'm going to take the gross motor movements that we would do naturally, give them form, function, and purpose, right? And start from that base, right? And then just build on that.
I love it. Like you said, it's like, I brought this up in an episode one time, and I think I'm going to do an episode on it. I'm looking for the right people. In other words, like you kind of touched upon it indirectly. And the thing is, if you think about it, what you did, that flinch, you know what I mean? I mean, think about it. Like, whoa, you turn around, that spider web, you know what I mean? And I know Tony Blowers did a good job, but if you think about it, why are we not basing a lot of our defense on that response? Like, oh crap, you know what I mean? It's just something I think about often, and I want to get the right people on. I had Tony on and all that, but I want to get some other folks, and why it hasn't spread more into arts like you just talked about, like what you're doing, natural movements that we've been doing for God knows how long. You know what I mean?
So first, let me touch on that if you don't mind, right?
Sure.
Honestly, my personal opinion, right, is that people get caught up in what they think fighting is supposed to look like, right? So we don't understand it. The body is pre-programmed to protect itself, right? This is why that's a natural motion, because the body is pre-programmed to protect itself. We take that for granted, so much so that we overlook it, right? So when we decide that we want to learn to fight, we forget that we already know how to defend ourselves, right? And start looking for other stuff, right? And a lot of the times that stuff overcomplicates things, and it doesn't work with our natural response, so it's harder to retain, right? Now, having said that, right, I lost it because it was something else you said with the natural response. Oh,
yeah,
so
biological.
Further, right?
Yeah.
I have a theory, right? and I'm actually gonna start writing a book about this theory, right? A lot of the games we play as children were actually fighting games, right? But nobody ever told us that, right? For example, when I was doing the fan, right, and then I made the comparison to double dutch. See, when you anybody from New York City that has a sister, they've turned double dutch before, right? Sisters always bully their brothers. You've turned double dutch, right? Boom. So if you turn like this, right, this is overhand, and then the windmill is this way, and if you turn the rope like that, that's called underhand. And Kali, right? We know that this is Sinawali right here. You don't want your hands, you don't want your sticks to cross, right? Because they can get trapped. So when one stick is out, the other stick is in, right? Boom. Same thing going the other way, right? See, we have this game called the numbers, right? Which you play like this, and you're actually learning. This is parrying a punch. This is also a palm strike, right? So all of this stuff, we learn these things, and then we don't realize, we don't make the connection because nobody tells us that connection exists. And since nobody tells us that, we just overlook it, and then we start looking.
Yeah, you know what it is. You're absolutely right, because we compartmentalize things. Oh no, that's over here. You know, it's not fighting, or it's, you know what I mean. But I agree with you. I think that's yeah, I totally agree. We got a question just came in, Ken. Oh, and this is from the great Dr. K. Wooden. All right, so all right, here we go. Okay, so this is a question from Dr. Kelly, early 80s student of Dennis from the Jailhouse Rock, New Orleans, trained at my gym. What's the connection to 52 blocks? He just jumped in. I know you went over this.
Could you repeat the question?
So his question is, he witnessed a student that trained Jailhouse Rock, New Orleans. He wants to know what's the connection to 52 blocks. And I know you kind of early in the episode and you went over this. I think he might have just jumped in.
So, all right. An honest answer to that question. So first, let me say this, right? Every state's prison system, I'm sure they have a style of fighting, right? It's probably that doesn't make it 52 blocks. 52 is like an exclusively New York thing. Unless like you have. Because New York guys were like nomads. They would go other places to sell drugs, whatever the case. So, and sometimes things spread that way. Now, if the individual had contact with a guy who was from New York City and learned like that, then that would be the connection. If not, then that would probably be his state's prison system's fighting art. Because, again, criminals are always fighting, man. So dudes are always working on ways to how to beat the other guy. Everybody wants to be dog on the yard. So every system, every prison system in every state, there's a fighting art, right? And they're going to be dudes who are experts at that art. So in Louisiana, they may have their own. I don't know what it is.
Okay. No. Yeah. And what we got here? Okay, there was a movie. This is from Norman. There was a movie that Ludacris produced, I think, for a bet that actually extended 52 scenes. It was named after a Bronx neighborhood. I can't remember the name, but it was
Gun Hill.
What's that?
It's Gun Hill.
Gun Hill? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Laurence Tate played he was the lead actor in the movie. Yeah, he was doing 52 blocks in the movie.
Oh, okay. All right. Gun Hill, yep. Ryan just said. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so now, you're teaching. So tell us about your teaching. I mean, I know you got your system and all that. Like, what's your offerings? Do you have group classes? You do online training? I mean, what do you do?
All right, I want to get into the online training. I'm still trying to figure that process out. No. Right, but I do offer group classes 3 times a week. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. I offer private lessons, right? Appointment by appointment. And I also have like other stuff. Like I'm working on 2 books right now. One is called Dessalinian Combative Perception. The Dessalinian Combative Perspective, right? And for Jean-Jacques Dessalines, because there's a quote from Dessalines It says, you must become like your natural enemy, cruel and merciless, right? And that pretty much defines what I feel a real combative system is supposed to be like. And I'm like, when you look at Medusa, cruel and merciless. You look at Piper, cruel and merciless. You look at Livne, cruel and merciless. You look at VTK, cruel and merciless, right? Boom. Because the guy attacking you on the street didn't come attacking you with good intentions, right?
Yeah, right.
Going off on a tangent with that a little bit, right? A lot of times what people don't realize is that you're that guy's meal, right? See, when you get attacked by somebody on the street, a lot of times, whether or not he eats that night, right, is dependent upon whether or not
you.
Yeah, right? So just like a lion attacking a gazelle in the jungle, that guy, he thinks he's the lion and you're the gazelle, right? So you have to be able to show him that you're not the gazelle, right? So you have to be more ruthless and more merciless than that person. This doesn't mean that that's an attitude that you carry with you that you wear on your sleeve like a badge, right? Because we don't go through life being cruel and merciless to just everybody, right? But when the situation arises, you got to have that switch and be able to turn that switch on and deal with your natural enemy. The natural enemy to the law-abiding citizen is the criminal, right? So you have to be able to deal with and meet him on his level, because if you try to be moral, you're not going to win that, right? Morality is for before and after the engagement, not during, right? All right, so that said, getting back on track, right?
No, it's good stuff.
Project I'm working on is, and I think Ryan, Mike, and Seth is going to like this. It's called the Gorgon Protocol, right? It's for women's personal protection, and Medusa is going to play heavily into that, right? Because again, I can't remember if it was Jason or Mike who said it on. I think it was on this podcast, as a matter of fact. But they were saying that somebody who's big in the combatives community said that self-defense for a woman requires a weapon, right? I agree with that 110%.
No, women's self-defense is 100%, man.
Yeah, man.
110-pound woman, I'm sorry, is not. It just drives me nuts with the comment. And I understand they got good intentions, but I've been saying that on since I started this channel going 3 years back, that women's self-defense has to be based on weaponization. Has to be.
Right. So, women are going to be attacked by a dude. The dude is going to be stronger, right? Probably going to be bigger, right? So she needs something to level the playing field, right? So, and Medusa is so simple that, that's the most effective means I see right now for a woman who just wants to be able to get home. She doesn't want to train years or anything like that.
Or doesn't have the time, you know what I mean?
Yeah, she doesn't have the time. She's got to go home to the kids or whatever the case. Boom. So the Gorgon Protocol, that's in the works, and Medusa is going to play heavily into that.
I'm definitely looking forward to that, because I love people who have shared that similar mindset that for women's self-defense. I mean, some of the stuff that's just out there is just like, there's just no way a woman is going to be able to do that or pull that off. And I think they got good intentions. It's just unfortunately just poor methodology. As far as online, I can give you a suggestion. I do a lot of online teaching, and what I found the easiest way, Ken, Facebook Messenger video.
Yeah.
Honest to God, I put my phone on a stool and in front of Bob, whatever, depending on whatever I'm teaching. But if you got decent internet, I just use Facebook Messenger.
All right.
The video. I just use the video option. The video, it's pretty good. They can see. If I'm doing online seminars, well, then I'll bring the laptop for Zoom. But if it's just like a one-on-one, like 30-minute lesson, 40, whatever you choose to do as far as time limit, it's worked like a charm for years now.
All right, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because now you can get going. You don't have to wait anymore. Yeah. Well, let me know if we start doing that, because Ryan just mentioned interest. I would be interested if you start doing that. If you did it online. So it's the easiest way. It's cost effective. You don't have to buy anything, man. You just take your existing phone and
Right.
Yeah, if you can find a woman that will quit, let me just see. Then, yeah, Jason made a good man. Yeah, if you can find a system that will equate psychology to a man, yeah, 100%, no argument. Obviously, here, Jason.
Yeah, I agree with that too, man.
Yeah, definitely poor methodology. Yeah, Ryan. Again, I know their heart's probably in the right place. They just none of them have evolved. The majority of them haven't evolved. They're still thinking women are gonna, just a couple elbows is gonna do it or whatever.
Honestly,
yeah.
I think that it's not even that, right? What I think it is a lot of the times is that people often think that violence is something that happens to somebody else, right? So, and I think they play on that. They're like, all right, what's the likelihood of a woman getting attacked? Very small. So I'm just going to teach them some nonsense because, and I'm not saying that everybody that has a class like that is out, got that intent, right? I'm sure that some do have the best intentions, but they're always in anything you do, just like we was talking earlier with people misrepresenting 52 or misrepresenting any other system, you're going to have people who misrepresent, women's self-defense.
For money. Especially when there's money involved, right? Good money involved, depending on what they're. I know. I guess I'm being nice. I guess. But I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I guess. But here we go. This guy's funny. Actually, good evening. This isn't episode. No, those reruns, Renee, are going to be occurring over the weekend. Guy's funny. Okay. Ryan has 2 questions. Okay.
Right.
So, I think you're going to end up having Ryan for an online student too. Okay. Just backing up. So Ryan's 2 questions are, Mother Dear and what was, Ryan, I got to scroll up. I apologize. What was your, jeez. Ryan, if you don't mind, just put it again. I got the first one. Apologies.
What about Mother Dear?
He's asking if you can tell stories about Mother Dear. Okay, thank you, Ryan. Mother Dear and the Dance of Death.
All right. First,
here's the thing.
Right.
If you choose to. I don't know where it's going.
All right. So let me say this, right? I never met Mother Dear personally. My dad knew him though, right? And I knew a bunch of people in the state that knew him. And Mother Dear was a problem, right? He was a serious problem. Now, as far as like stories, most of the stories of Mother Dear are like funny stories. For example, right? People would be like, "Yo, Mother Dear was so good with the 52. Did he?" Hold on. They would say the Mother Dear was so good with the 52. He knocks you out and you fall like this. You get it?
Yeah, absolutely. I get it. So you had it. So you had that one punch, that trajectory down to the science where you were going, right?
But yeah, Mother Dear was a problem. He's a real problem though. They actually killed Mother Dear in if I remember correctly in HDM because when he came on the tier, guys were so scared of him, man, they just jumped him and threw him off the tier.
Yeah, so you guys, man, karma. You know what I mean, man? You got a group of guys like, hey, man, enough's enough, and now it's your turn, right? Renee, so Renee, this is the 52 block system. If you want more information, Renee, you can reach. I'm going to put it in the comment section, but you can get a hold of Ken here, and sounds like he's going to be doing online lessons pretty soon. Hey, how far? So, what's that town again? You're in New York. What's it called?
I'm in Binghamton.
So Binghamton. Where's Binghamton? Like, what towns are you familiar with in Connecticut? What are you familiar with in Connecticut?
Bridgeport, pretty much.
Okay, how far is it from Bridgeport?
Just taking a guess, 3 hours. Binghamton is 3 hours from everywhere.
3 hours from Bridgeport? Holy crap! That's If you're 3 hours from Bridgeport, that means I'm 4 hours because I'm above Bridgeport going down Route 8.
Let me see.
Wow. Yeah, you're gonna have to do online lessons, brother.
All right.
You know that I'm telling you though, that's how I got started. And then when I got enough people interested, I mean Ryan will tell you with Piper and other stuff. Then I went to Zoom, you know, like online, but I'm telling you, you should definitely do it. I'm telling you, you'll get guys, trust me, you know. Okay. Ryan's other question, Dance of Death.
All right. I think that is an exclusively so that the brother Ramel has his system of 52, and I think that's something that's exclusive to his system of 52 because I've never heard of it. And after I saw him doing it in a video, and I spoke with some of the old time 52 dudes that I know, and none of them had ever heard of it. So I think that's something that's exclusive to something he does.
Okay. All right. Okay. Got a question here from Kurt, and this definitely is the most important question that's come on this show thus far. I mean, nothing to do with your methodology or anything that you talked about. Most important, Wu-Tang, who's your favorite?
Wu-Tang?
Yeah.
Method Man.
Method Man?
Absolutely.
Method Man. Yeah, I mean, that's a tough man. That's a tough one.
Method Man, man.
Like yeah, my God, to pick one. Jeez, that's a tough one. Like, who's ODB all the way from Ryan? Yeah, jeez, that's a tough one. All right, there's a woman expression and it's eye clawing. Yeah, argument here, Mike. There's a woman expression in 52. A lot of eye clawing the face. Yeah, before anything else. Meth second. Okay. Yeah. Jeez. But okay. So what are your future? Okay. So future goals for yourself in the system. What do you got? You know, I know you talked about a couple books. You know, you want to absolutely grow this, get yourself out there.
Right, grow it. I would like to see 52 expand to have like chapters in different states. Right, well, 52 VTK expand to have chapters in different states and even overseas, man. Right, because I've spoken with a couple people overseas who've expressed an interest in online classes. I just couldn't figure out how to set up online classes. But thank you for what you told me.
Oh my God, it's so easy. And then you can offer 30-minute, you can offer 60-minute. You know, what do you depending on what you want to do, and yeah, you'll be doing it in no time. It's
All right.
Yeah, it's easy. That's so what I'm trying to think here. Who do you got? Okay. So do you have anybody that's kind of like, do you have a ranking structure? Not that it matters. I'm just curious. Like
I do. Okay. So VTK is set up in it's a 3-tier system, right? And each tier is broken into 3 modules.
Okay.
So tier and it starts at tier 3. Tier 3 is the lowest tier. Now, this is a funny little side note, right? Or like, you know, I base this off of the disciplinary hearing structure in the prison system.
Okay.
So tier 3 in the system is like the worst ticket you can get. And the tier 1 is like the least violent ticket you can get. Now, the reason that I made the bottom tier 3 is because, you know, at that level, you might still be a little hot-headed or whatever the case, right? Boom. As you advance, though, I'm a firm believer that dangerous people rarely get into problems, right? Yeah. Once you become aware of how easy it is for you to hurt somebody and you become aware of your capability, you don't feel like you have to prove anything to anybody anymore. So you get into less nonsense, right? Which is why tier 1 is the top tier, right? Because you shouldn't be getting into anything at that point.
I like that. That's different. I like that. All right. So you guys hearing that? And let me just see. Last thing I'm going to say is 52 is an A, NYC centric, and B, I want to get on that 52 VTK tip. There's a business page. Oh, here we go. What's this? Facebook, 52 ways to strive. 50, yeah, Bridgeport is 3 hours and 20 minutes from Binghamton. Yeah, I knew it wasn't close. Yeah. But hey, you know what? It's okay because he's going to do online lessons. You know. Well, this has been awesome, man. And for the record, I know people are talking about Method Man and ODB. I was a Jizza fan and Master Killer fan, especially Master Killer. I thought he never got his due. I don't know, but that's just me.
I can dig it.
He was kind of quiet, reserved. You know what I mean? You know.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving 223. Let's get it. Oh yeah, that'd be nice for all of us to get together, man. Wouldn't that
would
be
be
something?
awesome.
Gosh almighty, I love being a student, man. Just be around you guys and just soak your stuff in,
I want to because I feel like these two systems deserve like a shot, and I don't know why it didn't occur to me this, but two other systems that influence the way that I structured VTK are Krav Maga, right? I like Krav Maga a lot, particularly the Kirks out in Westchester, PA. Their Krav Maga system is awesome, right? And I picked up a lot dealing with them, and the influence is there because nobody in prison had a gun, right? So taking guns from people and stuff like that out here in the world is a viable skill, right? So that's big. And then also, I met the brothers from the GHCA last summer at Krav Camp, right? I teach at Krav Camp every year for the last 2 years, and I believe I'll be teaching again this year. And their system is based on World War II combatives, and it's awesome. There's an awesome group of people, and they have elements of, actually, Jason knows exactly who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, he loves that. Yeah,
And they have a way of slashing with the knife that I'd never seen before, right? So I adopted that, and I let them know that. I asked for their blessings, and they said, "Cool, go ahead," right? And that, that's an awesome thing. So those two systems too, right, also play a part in, because there are elements of them that you're going to find inside the VTK. And another thing that VTK offers that a lot of other systems don't. So VTK is an urban survival system, right? So we cover the empty hand stuff. So think about it like this, right? I tell people that your self-defense is a passive skill. It's a soft skill, right? And what I mean by that is that if you think about your body as a castle, all castles had walls, right? The wall was the first line of defense, right? Your wall is supposed to be your awareness, right? And awareness is broken into 3 parts. The way I teach it, awareness is awareness of yourself in relation to the people around you, awareness of yourself in relation to the objects around you, and awareness of the people and objects around you in relation to each other, right? Being aware of what's going on around you, space, distance, so on and such, that's your wall, right? Now, if your wall gets breached, just like in the castles in old England, now you have to protect yourself, right? So now that's where you get from self-defense into personal protection. This is the physical skills, the hard skills, right? The empty hand stuff, the knife stuff. So from that perspective, we do empty hand, edge, impact, and improvised weapons, right? And if somehow all of that went to shit and you find yourself tied up in the back of somebody's car, then there's the rebellion or the resistance, right? Counter custody and anti-abduction. How do you get out of a pair of handcuffs? How do you get out of somebody's trunk? How do you get out of zip? Stuff like this, right? And these are the things that 52 VTK has to offer, right?
That's awesome.
Because, again, in the urban environment, and not just an American urban environment, any urban environment, right? These are the skills you need, because I tell people all the time, where you take your vacation is where other people practice their vocation, right? See?
I like that. We take your vacation, they practice their vocation.
Right. You see what I'm saying? So you need certain types of skills. You need to know how to make improvised weapons when you go, because there's some places in non-permissive environments, you don't want to be there unarmed, right? So you need to know how to find a weapon, how to make a weapon. You need to know how to fasten yourself a little kit so that if you need to get cut out of zip cuffs, you need to understand that when you first get grabbed, between the first, when you initially got taken and the first stop, that's your best opportunity for survival right there. Right?
What is the statistics? 90% or something? If you get taken to the second spot of you not coming back, it's up there, isn't it?
Yeah. Right. So all of this, right? This is why VTK isn't just a combative system. It's an urban survival system, right? I want to teach people to survive. Good people how to survive encounters with bad people, right? That's what this is about.
It's awesome. I tell you, I'm so glad we got you on here. I love what you had to share tonight. I'm a fan.
I appreciate you having me on. I'm honored, man.
Yeah, matter of fact, when I get people on here that I really like and I really believe in what they're doing and all that, I push it. Like I share their stuff in the group. I bring them back on again. So you're definitely gonna get students. And so yeah, just try it out. I'd be more than happy to try it out with you. Just do it on Facebook Messenger.
All right.
Yeah, you can start getting people, man. You can start getting people all around you, and I think it'll be good. There's plenty of people here that express interest in, wanting to learn from you and train from you. It's pouring in right now, the comments. Yeah, okay, Glendale, if you can go to 52 ways to strive. Yep. Showing you I love the expression. Count me in. Yeah, Ryan's in. I'm in. I just connected you and Renee in a group message.
All right.
Yeah. So, well, awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm hoping one day we can meet. Like, how far are you from Allen? 3 hours.
3 hours. Tell you, Binghamton is 3 hours from everywhere, man. Yeah. But that said, I'm planning to I'm not sure when I want to work it out, but I told Alan I would come hang out with him. He told me if I can't hang out with him, he showed me some places they got some good food in Philly. So
hey,
try to check it out.
Norman just came up with a fantastic idea. I didn't even think of this. Here we go. Norman, this is from Norman. Why don't you and Ken do a online seminar together, Piper and 52?
That sounds like something.
If you're interested, man, if you're interested, I got the Zoom. We can do it.
All right. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
Man, that'd be fun. I'd be humble and honored to share the platform with you.
Likewise.
Norman, thank you for the suggestion, man.
Thank you, Norman. Appreciate that.
That is awesome. Yeah. Man, we got to do it. I got the whole Zoom. All you need to do is just bring you on. We'll do an hour each or 30, 30, 30, 30. That works pretty good too.
Right.
And let's do it. I'm going to be in touch. I'll find out like what works for you as far as like what days and times work better. And the weekends generally work the best for that type of thing. Like a Saturday or Sunday afternoon,
I can set it up for one of those days, yeah.
Yeah, if I give you a few weeks notice and all that, good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Norman, that was a great idea. Thank you so much. All right, I'm writing it down now. Online seminar with Shadow. That's going to be a lot of fun, man. That's going to be.
Yeah, I think so.
Franco is a man because he gets it. Or he's glutton for punishment. Or both. All right, my man. I'm going to be in touch. Seriously. Want to be online and I'll get this Saturday, which works generally better for you, Saturday or Sunday?
Friday, Sunday. Sunday? I really don't do much. Yeah.
Okay. Sunday works for me. Like early afternoon. We're both in the same time zone, so.
Early afternoon, like when you say early afternoon, like you mean like 1, 2 o'clock?
Yeah, 1 o'clock,
Yeah, that works.
Okay. 1 o'clock. All right, we gotta do it. I already got I got your pictures, so I can make up a flyer. So that'll be easy enough. Yeah, Ryan's like, yeah, go. on there. Norman's obviously there. He came up with the idea, so I think it'd be safe to say Norman would be there. Brian saying I called it low. I'm not sure if he's referencing that, but could be. Yeah, there'll be a lot of fun though. You know what I mean?
I think so.
You know what? I tell you what. When I did, here's a good business thing for you. When Lloyd gave me the blessing to do online seminars in the States, he wanted me to grow it. And he says, look, just do them. Give level 1 stuff, give the basics, do it online. And that I started getting students and all that. So this would be a good way for you to get students too.
All right.
I'm telling you, it's all over, man. Shadow, I'm going to have you the 52 key.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, it was a pleasure, man, talking to you, brother. I really enjoyed it.
Likewise, brother.
Yeah, well, I'll be in touch though, so don't run away on me, right?
Everybody looking forward to hearing from you. I appreciate everybody that tuned in, man, spending time with us. Thank you, man. I appreciate it a lot.
All right, well, hey, you take care, man. I'll be in touch.
All right, you do the same. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. And that wraps up. Man, what a great episode. I'm so, I got to thank Alan Chambers. He kind of is the one that made mention of Ken. So yeah, big thanks to him for the referral. Yeah, I think it's gonna be fun. Get on with him and do a joint seminars. Sounds like a fun guy to do something like that with. And Norman came up with that phenomenal suggestion. So got to do it now. But yeah, so look out for that my discussion or posted. Definitely get that out soon. I'll find out what works for him, how soon he would like to do it. Yeah, thanks for all that watch, commented, and submitted questions. And who is next? You guys have been seeing a little more of me than you should be because Tom was on vacation and is getting back. I do and would like to go back to that reduced role. However, though, it's not happening anytime soon. So with that being said, this Saturday, Test Run Friday, Dog Brothers, Florida chapter, Dogzilla, him, Ryan, and Dax Manuel, 3 of them. And they're all kind of, I think, well, obviously, Dogzilla is a full-on dog brother. And Ryan might be just dog tag, and Dax, I'm not sure if he's dog tag or dog candidate. I'm not sure. Actually, Renee might even know. I just came across his name, Ryan. Yeah, he's somebody. I saw his recent interview where he was talking about Piper, and I thought he did a pretty good job on talking about it and describing it. I thought he was pretty articulate. He was, I thought he was pretty accurate in how he was describing it. And the one thing he brought up was really incredible about it is that he brought up the rotational aspect of Piper, which few do. And I thought right there, I said, this guy's good. Yeah. So I don't have any contact with him, or I'm not sure if you do, or him, or if somebody does, but I'd definitely be more than willing to get him on for sure. Absolutely. So yeah, folks, if you're not doing anything Saturday night at 6:30 Eastern Time, Dog Brothers, Florida chapter. Check it out. I think it should be fun. All right, so I should see you then. Yeah, let me know if you know him. I'm not sure how you know how to get a hold of him. I saw it at Instagram, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I appreciate it, Ryan. Thanks. You're the man. All right, guys. We'll see you next time.